So my name is Jeff, and I'm new to Quantified Self. I'm also a new professor in computer science at Brown University. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the work that I've been doing, and also Connor is going to show a quick demo too. Just want to start with kind of the thing that's got me started in Quantified Self was I saw a really cool article online by Muhammad, who's a Harvard postdoc, and he was tracking his allocation of time. So what he was doing as a postdoc, and I thought that was really cool. So I wanted to do the same thing. So I did. Oops, where's my cursor? There it is. So I did a stack chart, which is similar to his. So I started tracking kind of what I was doing at work, and also how much time I was sleeping, and some other things. Actually, for a couple of months, I was tracking even my non-work time, but that got a little neurotic. So I did it with, I have an app called Timesheet, and it's basically, it syncs with Dropbox every night, and then I have some script on the server that generates this. So this is kind of like my daily time, how I spend my time. So you can see it starts in August 1st, actually the first day I started my job, and it ends pretty much today or yesterday. I don't know if I can, but so it's basically the dates are on the bottom. And I'll actually, so you can see kind of what I do throughout the day. One thing I found was that there's a lot of daily variation. So I also made a weekly stack, and it looks like this. And I also have sleep in there because I was really interested in tracking how much I sleep. And if you look at the daily one, actually, you can see my sleep is kind of jumpy here for a while. And so I've been trying to smooth it down. So at the later end here, it's a little more stable. But up here, it goes from like 11 hours to like 8 hours. I sleep a lot, but I've been trying to make it a little bit more stable. So here's the kind of the weekly view of what I do. So one thing, I've been trying to change my behavior a little bit based on this too. So one thing, this bottom one is email. So this light blue thing on the bottom. And so this is kind of when school started, around about a third into this chart. And so it started to pick up a little bit. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be spending a lot of time dealing with email. So I've been trying to cut back. So I've been actually able to reduce it in this latter 1/3, as you can see. And it doesn't look like too much because it's like a big chart right now, but I was able to recover about 3 to 4 hours a week. Most of my other time is spent doing experiments, doing teaching, which is this orange thing, socializing, administrative stuff, planning, grants. So the two things that I spend some time on, which appear in chunks, are kind of writing grant proposals, because those are kind of deadline driven. So you can see that like there's a big push up to here, and then it's not so much. And then also publishing papers or writing papers to submit, and that was a big chunk here. So in 1 week, I spent over 21 hours working on a paper, and then after that, I didn't. But other things are a little bit more consistent. I was also curious kind of how much time I worked per week. So it ends up being I spend on average about 46 hours per week. I don't know if that's representative of typical professors, but that's kind of for me. And these are kind of like billable hours, because so it doesn't count if I'm like walking between meetings or anything like that. So so that's kind of the time. But I also wanted to know about where I was doing my work. So I tracked my location. So I have an app on my phone. It's active all the time, and it's the GPS logger. And so it tracks where I am in 1-minute intervals. So I can show you what that looks like. So here's what it looks like, and I've got actually like more fine-grained data, but this is kind of the categories I have. So this purple bar, so each row is basically a day, and then it goes from midnight to midnight every day. So this purple bar is when I was out of town during Labor Day weekend, but you can see every day, especially on weekdays, so I'm in the office. The orange is I'm in the office, and purple I'm elsewhere, and blue I'm at home. So it looks like I wake up about 11 or 12 in the morning, and then or I'm in the office from about 11 or 12 in the afternoon to about 5 or 6 in the evening. And this also syncs to Dropbox every hour. Actually, I think you can probably see some, like October 29th, that's today. So right now the purple shows I'm here in Cambridge here, and it's because I've been here all day. So that's location. And I thought it'd be really cool to actually put location and time together. So I put the data I had before with the location on this kind of time chart. So if you mouse up here, it looks kind of like this. And so what this shows sleeping, which is kind of the white. So anytime it's shaded a little bit lighter, I'm sleeping. And the time where it's shaded a little bit darker, I'm working. So there's a couple of things that I kind of learned from this about myself. One is that I'm usually pretty productive in the office, so most of the orange is shaded dark. So I thought that was nice. I also found that one of the reasons maybe I go to bed a little bit later. So sometimes I have data here where it shows I'm going to bed at like 5:30, or like this one's like 6 o'clock or something. And it's often because I'm working, so there's like a really dark shaded area right before I go to bed. So I've been trying to go to bed a little bit earlier, maybe like 3 or 4. That'd be kind of cool. But sometimes I'm not so successful. So that's kind of what I got out of here. I also found out that if I don't get enough sleep, so when the bar heater is kind of short, then I usually end up taking a nap in the afternoon, or or I'm just like sleeping at my desk or something. So I need a lot of sleep. But basically, all these different views kind of been giving me different perspectives about myself. So that's kind of one thing I liked. And also, if you're thinking of tracking location too, by the way, this is a good time to do it, because I think most phones can actually handle tracking your location pretty much all day if you use cell tower tracking. If you're using GPS tracking, most phones will last about half a day. So, I like cell tower tracking is actually pretty accurate. You can set usually an accuracy threshold, or at least phones have this kind of feature. So it depends on what kind of app you use, but some apps let you set the accuracy threshold for that. So that's a few pieces of data, and let's see, I'm trying to pull up my slides now, so I only have a few slides anyways. Cool. So I put all this data, actually it updates automatically online. So if you ever want to kind of, I don't know why you would, but want to stalk me or judge me or something, you can go to my URL there and look at it. So here's kind of my more soapbox stuff. So I think that tracking is a kind of commodity. There's a lot of things out there to track. And there's kind of two ways you can do it now. One is kind of you can use some commercial products right there and kind of these pre-made packages. And then you'll get these like nice dashboards, and there's like the Samsung S Health, which is supposed to track like everything in one app, and the Fitbit, it tracks all this stuff. Actually, I was looking at some people's apps, and it said like even the Fitbit, it was like enter in all your like food you've eaten and what you've been doing all day, and then we'll like collect all this data, and you'll lose control of it, and then we'll make pie charts for you or something like. So that seems a little sad to me. The other way is kind of you can do it yourself, and with spreadsheets or on pen and paper, and then you can do your own charts. But there's kind of a limited amount of stuff you can actually do, because you're not spending all the time doing it. So my research is in human-computer interaction and information retrieval. And so what this means, I look at a lot of really noisy user behavior data. And in the past, I've done this to improve search engines at search companies like Microsoft here, or Yahoo, or Google. And now I think it'd be really cool to use the self-tracking data to actually give control back to people. So I think it's a little bit of a tragedy that most people have to kind of do it from scratch and build their own systems, because everyone has their own tracking methods and different data formats. And the other option is these commercial systems that I mentioned, and these aggregators. They want to collect all your data and to want to have control over it. But I think it's a lot of people like us don't want to give up control of your data, and get our data in a proprietary format and get locked up with your data in the cloud and have to pay to get access to it. So that all these companies can make money off your data and spam you. But so here's kind of the idea is that if we can all kind of have our data track our data and put it in some kind of common schema. And then we can kind of agree on some schema formats. Like here, the text is a little bit small, but it's like longitude, latitude, and a timestamp. Then we can create these software that uses just that schema, and everyone can share this software. And so we can all benefit from the data without having to kind of give up your data.
So you're going to build that?
Yes, so that's what I'm talking about now. So I'm working on an open platform for sharing. And there's a couple of things we want to offer is be able to do visualizations and analytics, some predictive models, so some using state-of-the-art machine learning or some tools that we can make. So for example, like an email assistant or something using your availability data. So working on this, and all our code's going to be open source. So basically, you can download it and run it. We have a lifetime. GitHub has given us a lifetime organization account there, and I don't know if any of the code is up there yet, but I think so. We have code there, but we haven't flipped the switch to make it all public. And so the idea is, if you are tracking some data and you're doing some cool analysis with it, and it's data that's kind of in a common format, you can share the code you have to do the analysis or visualizations, and then other people with code or with data in the same format can use your software, and they'll totally get it for free, basically. So that's the idea. It's kind of like an app store for your visualizations and analyses, which I think would be really fun. So there's a couple of people I've been talking to about this. Zhen, he was at the first meetup in Boston here for Quantified Self. Now he's a researcher at Microsoft, and he's tracking his happiness and productivity. So he's sharing his code at this location, and I've talked to some Mohammed, which I mentioned earlier in this talk, and he did his tracking on his kind of productivity and time of day, and so I've talked to him about sharing his code. So that's kind of the idea of this platform. And the main thing is we can then decouple the tracking from actually benefiting from the data. So the tracking, there's a lot of ways you can do it, and instead of kind of locking you into the way you're tracking and locking into what you can get from it, is we're just saying all this data is going to become in some open format, like maybe this longitude, latitude format here, and then we can all benefit from it using software that we share. So here an example is this geolocation data. If it's in this schema, we can have historical plots or maps. We can have of where you've been, and I think Connor's going to show something like that a little bit later. You can have a system that recommends alternative routes for you, so you can see where you've been in the past and say, here's where you've gone the wrong way, or here's some other ways you can go. You can commute to work. We can build a daily location schedule. Actually, what I showed earlier of like where you are during the day, or automated travel system. So there's lots of cool stuff that we can actually get from this. And then here's the last slide. Is the next step I think would be really cool is kind of what I call a platform for social science. So today, a lot of people are doing experiments, and it's kind of an experiment with n equals 1 people, right? So you're doing it on yourself, and you're saying, oh, if I change my sleep behavior, does that make me lose weight or something? But I think once we have our data in these common schemas, so everyone's using these schemas and they're getting really a lot of benefits from the software, then we can do experiments that scale. And what I mean by that is we can actually maybe have a system where you issue a query like, I want to know, are early risers more productive and during what time of the day? And right now it's really hard to do. Sociologists or psychology researchers spend cost like $250,000 to get people in the lab, have them do a diary study. You have to pay for salaries for graduate students and for the faculty member, and it takes like a year, and then you get a paper at the end, and it's usually an n equals 30 people. So if a lot of people are using this kind of more common data format, then we can actually do a query like this. It could be a system that asks each person, oh, are you willing to share these fields of your data? Here's what it's going to look like. Here's what you're going to share. And if you say yes, then you maybe get the results of the study. You can see how you compare to other people in terms of your commute or your sleep schedule or your happiness or something like that. So I think that would be really cool, and that's kind of like a futuristic kind of thing I want to do. But once we get the data into kind of common format and we have some software that we share for it. Some other examples are kind of like knowing, does a longer commute correlate with, getting less sleep? I actually just saw a recent paper about that. So that's something we could actually find out in like like one day if we had some kind of a platform for this, and so forth. I just realized all the scientists I put on the bottom are physicists, so they probably are not interested in this data. But and do you want to show your demo, Connor?
Yeah.
Okay. So Connor's going to do one. I actually hadn't seen this till today. So thanks. So Connor's going to show something using also the same geolocation data. So pretty much all the visualizations I showed so far just has 2 formats of data. And so we're able to do at least 3 or 4 things with the same data.
So the great part about this demo is that it's also very quick. So I promise I won't take a lot of time. So I'm Connor. I'm a year 2 PhD at Brown. The main hat that I wear is actually looking at cancer genomics visualizations and more perceptual studies on visualizations. So I'm donning a new hat and helping Jeff kind of look at all this quantified self stuff. So this is just some of the geolocation data that Jeff was talking about earlier. And the tools that we're building will have a lot of different types of visualizations like these. This particular one takes all of the geolocation data and just a pretty common brushing and linking technique, so you can select a time range and then kind of see, okay, so someone left Providence to go to the airport, and then they're at the airport, and then time passes, and then they're in Seattle. And so ideally, the kind of post-development of all of this, we'd like to make a lot of these different views and start coordinating them together. So if you have a lot of different types of data that does have this timestamp, well, so you have this map view, and then you can start to add in other different types of visualizations, perhaps different tables, and the filters that you apply to one view would apply to all of them. So this is kind of preliminary early work, and if you do follow us on GitHub, if you're a programmer, then over time it will grow into a bigger project. And if anyone has feedback over what type of data they think would be useful or interesting to look at this, I would love to hear from you, as I'm quite open to looking at new things. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Oh, questions? Yeah.
So you're talking about N=1 experimentation and then the scalability of it. There's actually a guy, I don't remember where he's working from, but he's doing there's personalexperiments.org, and you can go there and you can set up their, it syncs with several trackers, Withings, Schemas, Fitbit, and a few others, as well as you can do manual tracking. It can send you a text message saying you're tracking your mood and so forth, and it can track, and you can set up your own experiments, decide which data points you want to track for that experiment, and then get visualizations, graphs, and try to pick up where you see correlation and so forth. And you can share those experiments and get other people to sign on and monitor how much they're sticking to their well. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I thought it sounded very similar to what you were talking about doing, and I thought that might be something to be interesting in.
That's really cool. Thanks.
Can you say where? This word is really hard to get.
Well, it's personalexperiments.org.
Do you have your hand up? No. Any other questions? Yeah, what's up?
You said you have an app for timesheets or something?
Yes, well, I'm just using off-the-shelf stuff. So I'm using, I think it's called Timesheet on Android, and then the GPS thing, I'm using GPS Logger. But you can, look, there's like tons of apps, and you can always, once you get into that format, the idea is that you can do the same stuff with it.
Okay.
All right, thanks.